and blessings, family, and welcome to another edition of What is the Time, a podcast about personal sovereignty, celestial timing, and living where the getting is good. Thank you so much for being here another time. I am your boy Zamboni, your DJ for the affair, where we'll be getting down and won't be coming up for air. As always, I want to appreciate all of the people who are here. We've been doing this for over a year now, and y'all been coming through and listening and providing excellent feedback in the comments section and all this. I super appreciate all that. If you want to send me some support via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, you're always welcome to do that. If you want to get a reading, if you want to go listen to the music, Can't Help Myself is the song, is super dope. Breathe is the song, is super dope. I super appreciate all of that sort of stuff. If you want to check it out at ZamboniFunk.com, you're always welcome to do that. And today on the show, we got my homie from long time, Kirah. I stay with your name in my mouth. And that is because people continue to ask me how I got my start in astrology. And I always have to come back to, it was you that told me to start doing readings in the first place. So it was you that pushed me into the professional sphere in general in this kind of environment. And I know that you have spent a lot of time teaching and bringing people out into this field and this space. So today with me, I got Kirah Tabourn of the Astrology, who is, you are a published author. You are the magazine editor for a period of time. I know you've been working on podcasts, and I've made an appearance on your podcast a couple of times, etc., etc. So many things going on out here. Thank you so much for being here and blessing the show with your presence.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, yeah, it's been a minute.
Sure.
Also, no longer the Astrology is still my Instagram handle because it's hard to change, but I have a new business.
Oh, my fault?
No,
tell me about it.
It's not your fault. It's not like I announced it or anything. But yeah, I'm trying to retire the Astrology. And yeah, my new business name it's Seven Spheres Consulting, but I'm not really, it's not like that's gonna be my website or my handle or anything. It's just a business name. But my new my new website URL, it's kirah.world. And I'm trying to change my handles to that. I can't do it on Instagram. It's annoying, but that's what's on Mercury retrograde story.
Sure.
But well, yeah, thank you so much for having me. We connected, I feel like way back when I first started making connections in the astrology world. And yeah, I was like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing it? Because you were plenty good, even like way back then. So I'm glad you finally did eventually take the plunge, and now look at what you're doing. Now look at where you're at.
Yeah. I needed that encouragement, and I found it at those meetups that we were doing. That was at the very beginning of Uranus and Taurus. Mm-hmm. So it was like before that shift had really taken place, and so we were like in there sitting in the living room talking shit about it and learning a lot of things, and it was super fun to do.
That's right. I never even think about that as Uranus entering my third. I always think about it as like Saturn entering my 11th, and like, getting more serious about community, and my nodal reversal happening in my 11th. But yeah, of course, that also coincided with that makes so much sense because I was hosting local meetups like in my apartments. Yeah. Wow. Good point.
For sure. There's always so many cycles going on at any given time. So it's hard to keep them all straight. But yeah, that was a major moment in history. I feel like the entrance of Saturn into Capricorn at the same time that Uranus moved into Taurus. Mm-hmm. Indeed, it is Saturn who I want to talk about today. So, because I've been thinking a lot about, we live in the future now. Welcome to it. Hello, here we are. And one of the things that has characterized the transition from wherever we used to be to wherever we are going now has been a renaissance of the weird. And so this has coincided with an interest in psychedelics and like ayahuasca and journeying practices. It has also coincided with an increase in tarot and astrology and magic in the mainstream community, with like witch talk is a thing now. There's like, prior to, and so I'm locating this with Neptune in Pisces. It was Neptune in Pisces who really, I think, brought out the weird in the culture at large. And so that goes back to like 2011, 2012 or so.
Yeah.
And so we're now 10 years-ish into that. And we've got another, 3 years, 2.5, 3 years to go on that.
Wow. And I think it's like, 14 years total usually is a Neptune transit around that. So I think we'll have probably a little bit of back and forth. I think total 14 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, and so Saturn has moved into Pisces at this point and has come to join that Neptune in Pisces. And that's super interesting because also those two are going to make the shift into Aries more or less simultaneously as well. And so whatever Neptune has been doing, in Pisces, we can think about dreams and imagination and potential for delusion and this kind of thing. And, whenever I think about Saturn coming into that, it's like there's that great Terence McKenna quote, if it's real, then it can take the pressure. And so Saturn is going to apply pressure to this Neptune and Pisces situation. And to all the weirdness that has coincided with or precipitated. And so I'm interested in your perspective on that in particular, not only because you have strong Pisces placements, but also because you are you're like such a forerunner for the kind of like mainstream of astrology and in this community.
Forerunner.
A forerunner. I said it. I know I'm not the only one out here saying it. So, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I've had a lot of feelings about it. I think I had a lot of big feelings about it around Jupiter and Pisces and the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction and with Venus, and how that was sort of, talked about on the astrology podcast they talked about that, and they kind of talked about it as this sort of like bubble, like that's kind of how big the bubble's going to get, and especially in regards to the mainstream spirituality resurgence, or not really resurgence, but actually I'll say that because it's not just been spirituality, it's also been, other major, just religion as well, especially Christianity. Not to say I don't know the numbers around a resurgence or anything, but just in terms of people, I don't know, I just feel like growing up, like up until recently, you didn't come across as many out and loud Christians, especially younger ones. Maybe that's just because of where I've been living and the demographics I've been in. That's like very much could be it, because I'm sure, you go to the Bible Belt, that's not going to be the case. Everyone's for the most part Christian, right? But just people being like just out and loud about their beliefs in general, we could say. But them talking about Jupiter and Pisces, especially Jupiter Neptune conjunction, as sort of this bubble, and that's kind of like how big the bubble's going to get. I really felt that. I really feel that, and then I think other people have talked about Mars and Gemini squaring Neptune and Pisces 3 times throughout that 7-month retrograde, and how that's kind of like a bursting bubble type of transit as well, like popping a bubble. And I do feel that there's quite a significant shift that we're in the midst of right now, when it comes to the Neptune and Pisces bubble that's been growing over the past decade. And I think that part of it was, again, the Mars squares to Neptune. And now we have Saturn co-present and just getting closer and closer over the next couple years before they meet up in Aries, but they'll be traveling together for a bit. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what happens. I'm hoping it's not anything too, I'm hoping it's not anything too, what's the word I'm looking for? Like too extreme, I guess. I'm hoping it's not because of Pluto not really being too involved. I mean, Pluto will be sextile. They will sextile Pluto, but when Saturn and Neptune are together. But I don't know. I'm just like, when I say I hope it's not going to be too extreme, I mean, I hope it's not like, astrology going into the dark ages again, going into the underground again. That's what I mean. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at right now.
Do you think there's a possibility that it will be pushed underground another time?
Depending on how the ways that history goes in the next decade. Yeah, I think there's a total possibility. I don't think fascists like astrology and astrologers and, spirituality outside of whatever religious type of fascism they're pushing. So in our case, it's, Christo-fascism. But yeah, I don't think that they would, if that were to, become, if they were to continue to gain power over the next couple of decades, yeah, I don't think that there would be a lot of out practicing astrologers in the same way that we have right now. But I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
That's interesting because I've been thinking about Saturn as being like authority structures in the same way, but then coming to conjoin Neptune, I've been thinking about the possibility of more like Ronald Reagan astrologers. You know what I mean? Like if Ronald Reagan famously used an astrologer to help him elect his various things during his presidential campaign, and eventually he won that campaign. And that
was the early 80s, right? And so I wonder what the Saturn Neptune cycle was then, because at 89 is when we had the conjunction, right? The last Saturn Neptune conjunction.
That was in Capricorn.
Yeah. So I wonder. Yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. Yeah, I do feel, I mean, we do kind of have that in a lot of ways. Astrology has become so mainstream that, there are right-wing people using it. There are, there's always been financial astrologers. Doesn't mean that they're conservative or anything, but I wonder if it will be more of like people that are more Saturnian, type structures using astrology for business and administering things. Essentially, that's sort of like my dream job. It's just to like be on payroll with a company and just like help them plan. And yeah, I would love that. So yeah, I think that definitely could be a way that manifests. I hope it's something like that, as opposed to, I mean, I don't want like another Reagan, but people in power using astrology, as long as it's good astrologers, then sure.
Yeah, well, it's I've always thought about astrology and its political implications, because it's always been like, well, for every genocide that ever happened, the stars presided over that, right? So like the stars don't necessarily point in one political direction or the other, right? The stars are for everyone, on the people on the left and people on the right, and people who might not who might reject that spectrum. Even like the stars are simply in the sky, and they're out here and they're telling us what's going on, right? They're providing this clock for us. So I feel like anyone who is interested in power could notice that.
Exactly. And have Because like, as you know, like that's the roots. Those are the earliest roots of astrology is, political means for kings to administer their kingdom. So yeah. And I'm sure it is being used. It's always funny when, us as astrologers, you're not on Twitter, but often we'll be like a celebrity or someone will, release something on a certain day and we'd be like, who's your astrologer? Like, who's on your team? Because like, why would you, like, of course you would pick this day. Like, this is like the day to do this,
Sure.
So it's like, it has to be happening. We just don't know who and when and, whatever, but it's definitely happening.
It's one of the things that I have heard Austin Kopic say before is like, you can tell who's not electing their things.
Yeah.
Like Donald Trump announced his candidacy for the presidency another time for the 2024 election with the moon in Leo opposite to Saturn in Aquarius. I was like, look, that's not elected. If you want to win, you don't elect moon opposite Saturn.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what the first one was like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of digging that you can go into there.
Yeah. I wonder what the 2016 one was like. But yeah, because I remember looking. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, just that like announcement could be fun. Like whoever won the presidency, like when did they announce their candidacy? Like that would be like a fun, interesting research project to go down.
Yeah. Because I was tracking them for a bit. Back
those announcements
on the lead up to the 2020 election, I was tracking for at least the Democratic, nomination. I remember tracking a lot of them, but I don't remember looking. I don't know. I'm sure I looked at Biden's, but yeah, obviously most of the ones I was looking at didn't win. So I remember looking at Bernie's. I remember looking at Warren's. I remember looking at a couple. But yeah, those are always fun to track.
Super interesting. Like, and you can, as an electional astrologer, you can get better by just like looking at what things were successful and which things were not successful.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this has me thinking about astrology's place in mainstream and or corporate culture generally. So we have seen throughout the same time, this Neptune and Pisces, we've seen the proliferation of things like co-star and Chani Nicholas got really big during this time as well. And so she's like running this app and all this, and I feel like Chani Nicholas is really like a finger on the pulse as far as the like, the feeling of the moment, the zeitgeist of, especially Chani's audience. Like it's really like keyed into that and like the wave and how people are feeling about things. And so this has me thinking about this relationship between astrology and corporate culture and this kind of thing. And so, like, do you think that, this has me thinking about like licensure or certification or this kind of thing. Like, do you think that things are going to head in that direction toward certification in the same way that one has to be a certified in order to practice psychology or something like this?
Yeah, I certainly hope not. And I'm certified for the record. I'm ESAR-CAP certified. And yeah, I hope so. I hope not. I hope it doesn't go in that direction. I don't see, I think that's certainly a way things could go. I saw that being more popular over like 2020, 2021, even before I got certified in 2019, at the end of 2019. But I don't know why. I have been looking at Saturn more as a like a judgmental, more like limiting, restricting force in Pisces in regards to these things, as opposed to like creating more structure. I think it's both. But certification in particular, I'm hoping it's not that. I hope it's not. Well, it's not that I'm against certification at all. It's more that I'm against like unifying that, like creating sort of a big umbrella where, you know, astrologers need to be certified under some sort of unified, you know, I'm not into that. I think if you want to get certified through whatever various, you know, organizations or ways or, you know, courses, then that's great. I just don't think it's necessary. And it's not something that feels super accessible. And I don't know, not to say that everything needs to be accessible, but it's just something that's not necessary to me. In my opinion.
Yeah, that's so interesting. As somebody who went through the trouble to get certified, like,
well, that's why I did it, to see if I would recommend it or not.
Oh, really?
That's literally the reason I did it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And you came out of that being like,
I came out of that being like, hell no.
Interesting. Tell me a little bit about that.
Again, this is my like the sort of the organization that I went through for certification and the process that I went through, and this was in 2019. So this was about 4 years ago. And things could be a little different. I don't know. Things could be different with other organizations. I don't know. But to sum it up, it's spent about $500 total, and it's like a 2-day process where you're doing an ethics training, an ethics training, a counseling skills course, and the test. So it's like over 2 days. And the counseling skills course was great because you're like literally in person with people, like learning certain like listening skills and practicing them out. And that was fun and helpful, I think. The ethics portion was supremely lackluster. Like, we're talking like 1999 type of don't discriminate type of like PSAs. Like that's kind of like the vibe of it. Just felt like the stuff I used to do in high school, you know, when I went to a predominantly white high school, and they would have these sort of like diversity days where they would like teach you to not be assholes to people who have less than you. And you know, like that's kind of the vibe of it. It was just so dated to me that it was like literally like a video. There's a video of that we had to watch. Like, this is in order to pass, you have to watch a couple videos and like take a little test. So the videos, the one that like sticks with me is like, you see like this white mom and daughter like just walking, and then you see a business, like a white businessman, like, and he's like in a suit and he has like a briefcase and he's walking, and like that he walks by them, and you know, nothing, whatever, they don't care. And then they see this like Middle Eastern guy, and he's like just wearing normal street clothes, you know, and he's running, like, I guess, and they're like passing them, right? So he runs past them, and they like, you know, like get really scared, pearl clutch. Oh my gosh, what's going on? He must be. And then you see cops running in that direction too. So you're like, oh no, like what did he do? Because you have all these biases, right? Is obviously the Middle Eastern guy is the criminal, of course, right? So then you see the cops run past the Middle Eastern guy. Sorry, he wasn't running. I forget if he was running or not. I don't know. Whatever. They run past him and they tackle the white businessman with a briefcase, which is like full of drugs or something, you know, and it's like, check your biases. Like, it's like stuff like that. Like, that's what we were watching. And there was another one, was like the animated video that was like, literally looked like it was from 1994. And it's like stick figures of different colors brown, green, white, orange, yellow, black. And they're all holding little placards that say like gay, like Jewish,
Sure.
like homosexual, you know, whatever. Like, and it was just like, we're all like, and they like all kind of come together in one circle. And it's like, we're all one, you know?
For sure.
Like that was the ethics portion. And then my biggest gripe was the tests, honestly, and just how I just feel like it didn't do a good job at all of seeing if you're a good astrologer. It's just more about like if you can memorize certain terms, if you can extrapolate and talk about a certain placement that in your practice you might not even use. Like something that really got to me was it's very much geared towards modern astrologers. It has like no semblance of traditional astrology, which bothers me because yes, I know they've been probably using the same test for decades, but it bothers me because, you know, you're a traditional astrologer like me, like it's the roots of the whole tradition, right? So like, wouldn't you want to be testing if someone knows what essential dignity is, or if someone knows what, I don't know, just other things that I'm like, I think personally are way more can show that you're a competent astrologer more than if you can talk about this quincunx between someone's Uranus and Jupiter. Like that's literally like what I had to write about, like 5 different points about this inconjunct between someone's Uranus and Jupiter in the example chart. And I'm like, I do not work with this aspect, right? Because it's not an aspect. But yeah, so I just feel like, not to say it needs to be geared towards traditional astrologers, but it just felt like it was really outdated and geared towards a particular type of astrologer, which is the astrologers that grade the test. And a lot of the questions were very like, you know, they just felt tricky. Like, am I answering this in the way that I would answer it, or the ways that they would want, like they would want me to answer it? You know what I mean? Because astrology is so subjective like that, yeah, I don't know. I could go on and on, but I just really, it was not worth $500 for me. I mean, to say I'm certified, sure, but no one's asking my for my certification.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is like, has it been helpful to be certified for you? Is it like on your resume or something?
No. I mean, yeah, it's on my, maybe if I do have a resume, it's on there, but like, it doesn't come up.
Right.
It rarely comes up unless it's quite like, you know, questions like this, conversations like this, or I'm shit talking it.
Sure.
But, you know, I feel like Chris Brennan's course, like, hell yeah, like taking one of his courses and getting certified in that, like, yeah, do that. If that's something that matters to you to be certified and like you completed something, you have documentation of that, like for sure do that, but like highly research whatever or like organization or body that you want to get certified under, or person, you know, in their courses. Yeah, I have ones that I'd recommend, like Chris Brennan's course, like Austin Kopek's course, like even Nightlight Astrology, Adam Ellenboss, what's his name, Oraculos School of Astrology. Yeah, there's a lot of goodies that I would recommend, like people in their courses rather than professional orgs. And I don't know, they're just really out like that. They have an issue with things being outdated, and it's still kind of an issue right now.
Yeah, it was Michael Bryant of Oraculos. He's been sort of like talking about this issue of certification recently, and so that's part of the reason why it's been on my mind. Yeah,
I was wondering if you've been a part of that, because I've seen it on Twitter a lot. He's been talking a lot about it on Twitter, so yeah, I was curious if that's where you were getting it from.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a thing for a while, you know.
Yeah.
And I am just uncredentialed out here just saying shit and swearing most of the time. And So I'm pretty like anti credentials and this kind of thing because I don't really trust credentialing organizations and this kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's the same, like the way that you were describing your OPA certification is exactly the way that I describe. Oh, is it ESAR? My fault.
Yeah,
my fault.
that's okay.
But the way you were describing that certification is the same way that I describe my bachelor's degree. Like no one has ever asked about it.
Yeah.
I could just lie, and it probably wasn't worth the many thousands of dollars that I spent on it.
Hundreds of thousands for some of us.
Yeah, exactly. And so I run into this issue of like, like respectability becomes a thing. And so, I personally, being uncredentialed and whatever, I like to think of myself as Shrek a little bit. Like, get out of my swamp. I chose this swamp because no one was coming here.
Yep.
And I like it here. And now, like, all these fucking normies are showing up, and you are not welcome in this swamp.
Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like that.
Yeah. So how are you feeling there? Like, and how do you feel about like the idea of respectability generally? Because I know you also mentioned that you wanted to work in a corporate environment where you're just kind of like telling them dates to work with and this kind of thing as well, right?
Yeah. When it comes to respectability for me, I mean, it is a tough topic, I feel like. But I feel like having dignified Saturns too, we probably think about this more than others. I feel like like the Saturn and Aries folk are probably like, who gives a fuck?
Sure.
But who knows? Yeah, I think for me, I do not I go back and forth. I feel like I want there to be, I shouldn't say desperately. I do very much wish and hope that we get to a point in society where astrologers are regarded as, or well regarded, essentially, or regarded as like, important members of society, as we once were. That is like my hope for astrologers. To be taken seriously in the same way that any other consultant would be taken seriously, right? Like when you consult a lawyer about something, or you consult, whatever other sort of professional consultants that are out there, that's what we're doing, right? And so, super side note, but I was on TikTok recently listening, someone was talking about the US caste system, which is corporate America, and kind of like placing people in different parts of the caste system. And then she talked about, obviously there's the laborers, which is the biggest part. And I was like, yeah, that's us. Like we all work for a living and all that. But then she mentioned the court. And she's like, then there's the court, which are like any people that are in the media, anyone that's sort of like creating things that aren't really real, like writers, journalists, like all of that. It's real, but it's not.
Information knowledge workers, you mean?
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's us, like that's really where we would be, is like the court, essentially. And I hope for us is that we would be eventually recognized as members of the court, right? As members of that part of society. And I think that's where we're getting there, right? Like that's kind of where we're at right now to a degree. I think we're closer to there than we have been in probably a couple thousand years, right? Or maybe not a couple thousand, but since like the Middle Ages or whatever, or medieval times, I should say. What am I saying? Okay, so yeah, I'm hopeful for that, but I'm hopeful for more respect in society. I don't expect it. And okay. I also feel like there's an element, like over the past, 7-8 years of really being active in the field and the community and all of that. And as things have become more popular and more mainstream over time, and like watching that happen, and one part of it being like a dream come true, because I literally like didn't did not expect it, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
being so into astrology and being that astro nerd. You met me at that point. Like I truly never expected things to get this big. Um, but the other part of me is like, yeah, that's amazing. And then the other part of me is like, yeah, but this is a cult knowledge. Like, not everyone was out, like, was supposed to know about this, you know, because it is
Mm-hmm.
information that taken in the wrong hands can do damage, right? Not to say like, not even with, not even getting into like magic, but
Sure.
just people, you know, saying harmful things to other people in the through astrology, right? By using astrology. Um
Mm-hmm.
and not knowing that they're being harmful, even, you know, not even saying people are doing that purposefully. But I think at this point it's like a Pandora's box has already been opened, like the information,
Mm-hmm.
the internet exists, information's out there, whatever. But I don't know, I don't necessarily like, yeah, I want respect, essentially. That's like what I hope for. I don't hope for people to necessarily like, you know, understand it, or, you know, start the scientists start like well regarding us, like all of that. I don't expect that or necessarily want that. I just
Mm-hmm.
feel like more respect would be great, and I think we're slowly getting there.
So, what does more respect look like to you if scientists still don't think astrology is real?
I think more respect looks like acknowledging what we actually are doing and acknowledging what astrology actually is, and
Which is what?
like acknowledging that we are essentially time historians, right? Like acknowledging
Mm-hmm.
that what we're actually doing, meaning like tracking patterns throughout time, and not just being like, you're a Scorpio, you must like sex. Like, I think that is where the respect part that's what bothers me
Mm-hmm.
the most, right? Is that like in the mainstream um they don't, like, most people don't care to look past the very surface level, like the most surfaces of levels. And it's like, fine, but again, the scientist, how you call yourself a scientist if you're going to make a judgment on astrology based on your assumptions, or like this, like not much data, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my gripe with like scientists and scientific community, and their issue with astrology, um, and just the academic community in general. Like, I feel like we have so much that we could be working together, and that doesn't mean they have to know, like, understand us or what we're doing. But again, the respect piece, like, we could be there. There's so much, yeah, that we have so much data and information that we have that they could be, you know, historians, all different types of academics could be working together with us on, if they didn't have such little respect for what we do. And I think a part of
Mm-hmm.
that is just like not knowing, and not caring enough to research and learn, which is fine. There's a lot of things I don't care to research and learn about either.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like regarding us with more respect.
Hmm. That's interesting. When you were talking there, then it made me think you were talking about knowledge workers, and that that's a recurring theme in the age of information, where or in the era of air, right? And there's a overlap there, where in the era of air, it's very likely that knowledge and word and communication is like more valuable than coin is, or something like this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so that got me thinking about, and that, as well as what you were saying about the standardized test that you took for ESAR, in order to become certified. It made me wonder if ChatGPT would get certified. And it sounds, based on what you've told me, I would think that probably yes.
Not as it stands right now. Chat GPT is not does not have a lot of astrology knowledge.
Yeah. Have you queried it this
A
way?
little
I've
bit, a
seen.
little bit. I mean, I haven't done a lot, but yeah, it does have some. I've more queried it for timing purposes, and it is not good at that.
It doesn't have a good ephemeris.
No, it's weird to me. I'm like, where are you getting this information? Because every time I ask about a time, I'll be like, when does the moon enter Cancer today?
Uh-huh.
And it just gives me a weird, like a random time. And I'll say like Pacific Standard Time or whatever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it's actually this time. They're like, oh, sorry about that. Like, let me revise my statement then, you know? But yeah, that's
Okay.
really the only way I've played with it so far. So maybe it could, actually, there's like essay portions, but yeah, it probably could, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it seems like it would be able to delineate this planet in aspect with that planet fairly well. I have seen people intentionally try to trip it up. I saw someone recently say something about they had asked it what would happen, what traditional astrologers said about Mercury trine the sun, which
Okay.
is an impossible configuration that
Right.
simply does not happen in the world.
Yeah.
And then it cited Valens and some other things
Oh my
to
God.
like talk about that. And just like lied, basically, just
Yeah.
made some shit up and said
Yeah.
it authoritatively. And what was interesting about it is it cited Valens obviously wrongly because that's an impossible configuration. But like the idea of Mercury trine Sun, it was like if you just think about that abstractly, then like it gave a pretty good delineation of what that would be
Interesting.
like. And
That's
so,
wild. I'm sure it took something from like a synastry, someone's Mercury trying another person's sun
mm,
or something like that.
mhm.
Maybe that's where it got some information from.
Yeah, maybe so. Certainly not
But
from traditional texts,
yeah, not from Valens.
right? But so that sort of like made me think about, right, so like this idea of, and I can't decide if chatbots are good for respectability around information work or bad for respectability around information work, because it introduces all these questions like where are these words coming from, and like how believable is it, and if it's a bot, does it like should I just keep scrolling, like what's going on here. And so that made me really, that's just I don't know, I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about the way that you mentioned time historians as like a class of what we do, right? And so I you can think about something like Nick Dagenbest's work on the Uranus cycle, for example, and just looking at, okay, this happened at this moment in time, and this was also happening at the sky at that time. The next time we saw a sky configuration that was like that, then this thing happened in history. And isn't it funny how those things rhyme, right? Like
Right.
that's basically how his work operates. And so, to my mind, it's a little bit like the gift of an astrologer, or one who maybe even knows how to like read the tea leaves or other forms of divination, might be in pattern recognition, because in the information age, then there's all this aggregate data, right? All this data just comes in, more and more data, and it's impossible to sift through all of this data because there's so much of it, right? And so it takes a particular kind of skill set to be able to recognize patterns in there and to know what to look for in the first place. And so I feel like that might be a skill that we have here that is important.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm currently working on an algorithm for a dating app. And I'm building out, yeah, like what patterns essentially are we going to be looking for, and the different types of synastry patterns and all the things. So yeah, it's
Will you talk a little
definitely
bit about that? Because I know everyone is like, I want to know, like, what kind of things are you looking for in that kind of context? What are you training the AI to look for?
Yeah. We're in super early stages, so I'm still like writing the algorithm basically, but yeah, things like you know, obvious things like sun aspects, but also things like what house does your sun light up? My seventh house, does your
Mm.
moon light up my chart ruler, things like that. So there's a couple different points that I've identified as like relationship oriented or important for relationships in the
Mhm.
chart. So like obviously the sun, moon, rising, um the chart ruler, Venus, like things like that, certain houses, and how they interact with another person's chart and essentially assigning scores um
Mm.
to that. So yeah, it's interesting. I've never done something like this, but I always have wanted to. So ooh. Sorry. So
Mercury
yeah,
retrograde than a motherfucker right now.
it's really. But yeah, so it's exciting and it's been fun doing it. And the founder of the app, we have really fun synastry. So we use our charts as examples, and his sun is exactly conjunct my chart ruler, which always feels really good. And my
Mhm.
sun is in his first house. So there's a lot of fun
Mhm.
types of synastry to play with. And yeah, it's been interesting as someone who has been on dating apps for like, over a decade now. Maybe not over, about a decade now. Yeah, it's been it's been really interesting thinking about how to match people astrologically.
For sure.
So
That
we'll
it's
see.
super interesting. I know a lot of people are thinking about that. And I participated in a little event like that one time where
Oh yeah.
they did a synastry match and then we went on a little virtual date and it
Oh,
was
how was
trashy.
it?
It was so
Yeah.
I did not like that person at all.
Okay, wait, tell me why. Like what did you see anything? Do you know about their chart?
We talked about it a little bit. I don't. It was like 2 years ago at this point, or something like
Okay.
that. I've read a lot of charts in between now and then, and
Yeah, no,
uh,
I'm just wondering if you remembered if there was anything that you remember that was like, oh, they probably thought this was going to be why we were compatible and something
sure.
like that because I'm
I That would have
curious.
been the thinking thing to do. I should have done that. Um,
That's how my
but
brain works at least.
sure, sure. Yeah. Well, what I thought about was like being the astrologer in that position has to be super hard because you've just got all
Mhm.
these different charts and you just have to be like, okay, which ones go good together? Like,
Yeah.
and that's such a broad. But then the other thing is that like you only get to work with the charts that come in, and
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
and the number, I know that the number was super small. It couldn't have been more than like 20 people involved or something like
Yeah.
that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Wow. You remember her sun sign or anything?
No, I don't remember any placements at
Damn,
all at this point.
Zamboni.
I know. I shouldn't have even told this story without the specifics on there.
That's okay. That's okay. I want to do something like that though. Like I've always wanted to be a matchmaker. I've always wanted to do stuff like that.
Mm.
My chart ruler is in the seventh house, so
Hmm. Hmm.
um, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah. So,
pattern
oh,
recognition for sure. That's one thing I'll just say. Like when I do work with asteroids, whatever I feel like it. um,
sure.
um, Pallas Athena in the chart is always like when that's really loud in a chart. I'm like,
Mm.
that's to me like a really strong astrologer signature. Obviously, Mercury, like that is the astrologer planet. But I always look at Pallas because Pallas was a skilled, or Athena was a skilled weaver. And
Mm.
also just a really skilled strategist and war strategist and organizer. And I just feel like those pattern recognition skills are usually pretty prominent.
Mm. Mm.
Pallas, Athena type people.
Yeah. And in astrologers' charts, you
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. I've
That's
seen it
another
for like
interesting.
coders too, like Pallas Athena being loud in
Ooh.
like coders charts or people who do like weaving, knitting, like that type of thing as well.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, that sort of speaks to some of what has been going on in the astrological community online as well recently. Is like talking about which aspects look good in an astrologer's chart.
Yeah, I need to listen to SP Hall's series on that. Do you know of SP Hall?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Were
listened
you on it?
to a few of
Okay.
those. No, he didn't reach out to me.
Okay. But yeah, there was a
Which is good because I don't
series.
have any of the shit. I don't have like I don't
I
even
know,
have like a
same.
prominent Mercury.
No, I think my Mercury is like the thing. I guess I have a ninth house stellium, but that's pretty much it for me. You have some ninth house stuff, don't you?
The North Node in
No.
Pisces.
Okay, that's what it is. But you have, I'm thinking of your super angular stuff.
I do have super angular stuff, but yeah, not
Yeah.
in the ninth and not like and Mercury's not involved in any of that stuff. And
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. It's funny were you looking at the lot calculations and stuff like that?
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't have any of that either, but I don't know. I have a Mercury. That's good enough, I guess.
I mean,
That's the
yeah, well,
thing.
it's clearly good enough because you can look
Yeah,
at your career and be like, okay, well, look, this person is doing the job. So like, what's happening out
I'm
here? You know what I mean?
working. Yeah. No, yeah, it's doing its thing. It's just not easy. Mercury and Sag. It's like
Sure.
everything I do is like so it's like I want to do it, but it takes my brain like it feels like 5 times longer than it should to be able to do the things. But showing up to
Mm,
podcasts, like this is what my Mercury is made for, I think. It's just
for
on the
sure.
fly. Yeah.
Just rambling about stuff. Yeah. I mean,
Talking.
that's a lot of what I feel like this job is, at least for me,
Hmm.
because, when you get into a reading, then that's, like there comes a point where having prepared too much can get in the way
Exactly.
because it can stop you from being present. It can stop you from being in the space with the person who
Exactly.
may or may not have anything to do with what I wrote, you
Hashtag
know.
no prep.
Word.
That's I kind of rant about this on Twitter every now and then. I'm like, you don't need a prep. Like it's not if you need to like pull up some charts, fine, but like you should get to I shouldn't say should, but this is what I'm saying. I feel like you should be able to step up to a chart without looking at it at all and talk to the person and go from there. Like I truly
Mm.
believe that. Um,
It's really
you
about
don't
that
need a
pattern
prep.
recognition.
It
You should
really,
be able to
really
recognize the
is.
pattern. You should be able to look at the chart and be like, oh, this is the direction that things kind of want to head.
Exactly. And that's what I teach with my program Astrology That Hits. It's like step one, identify the question. Like that's step one.
Woo,
What is the question?
tell the
Because
truth. Oh,
you're literally looking at someone, it's like staring at someone and then just expecting to like kind of just talk about them. It's like we're looking at someone's chart, there's answers to essentially everything, you know what I mean? Like
hmm,
if you want to get into it, yeah. So what's the question? Because you can just talk about someone's chart with them forever, literally.
for sure. For sure. Which happens to me too frequently where they'll be like, I don't know, just do your thing. And I'll be like, all right. And so then I do my thing until the last 2 minutes. And then they're like, okay, but like, what about my boyfriend? It's like, bitch, we could have
Yeah.
been talked about this. Why are we?
No, see, when they say do your thing, I push back. I'm like, well, what do you want to talk? What's on your mind? And I'll say, do you want to talk about, what's happening in the next couple months? Do you want to talk
Mm,
about, but and then from there, I'll like anchor back into, I always start with like asking questions. What are you doing for work? What's your like dating, living, loving situation? Like, yeah, where do you live? What's your relationship with your
hmm,
family? Like I kind of cover the angular houses basically before I
for
even
sure.
dive in. Because then that's when you can really get into their questions. Because sometimes you'll ask someone like, they'll be like, oh, I just want to hear a head reading, whatever. And I'm like, okay. And then I'll ask like, so where are you living right now? Do you like it there? Do you want to stay there? Actually, I do want to move. Okay, cool. That gives us something to talk about, right?
For sure.
But they don't say that off the bat because they don't think to say, like people
Yeah.
are, I think I get this way too when I'm booking a reading. Like I don't necessarily put everything either, because it's like, which is fine. I think it's our job to sort of be able to get those, to ask the right questions, basically.
Yeah, I've talked to my herb teacher about doing herb consults this way, and like finding ways to ask the right question that pulls the thing that actually matters out of that person.
Yeah.
And what a process that is, just by itself, just like being able to get that information out so that we can then approach it with the chart or whatever modality it is that you're using.
Exactly. That's my method, at least.
Yeah, one thing that I've found in is that like having some kind of prompt is helpful. Like there have been times where I've been like in a party environment or something like that, and like ready to read some cards, and then I'll ask what the question is, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know," you know, like, and everybody sort of freezes up until one person asks a question, and then everybody's like, "Oh, I got something."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, dude, it's such a, I don't know, it's definitely, I think, the best part of my job. I love doing consults. I think a lot of people don't, which is fine. I'm a 7th house person. I love like stepping into that space with a person and just like hearing about their lives and like asking them questions and getting into it. And then, yeah, pretty much like the first 30 minutes of my consults are always just talking about their lives and me asking questions, and it has almost no astrology in it. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Let's look at the astrology. And then I'll kind of dive in from there with all this knowledge about them now that I can like apply to their chart. I don't even look at the chart usually for the first, I just like have it up and I'm just like taking notes about their life. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to look at the chart and apply this to that. Because yeah, I just feel like going in with all these preconceived notions and, you know, about the chart and about who they are and all this stuff, it's like, it's fine, but it might not be helpful for them. You might be spending a lot of time doing work that's not even relevant to where they're at right now and what they need right now.
I feel like that bit there about working too hard on the wrong things has direct implications on what we were talking about pattern recognition and data analysis, right? Like there's a strong, good astrologers will be able to find that piece of thing that is actually relevant to what we're dealing with quickly and find ways to do that might not necessarily be linear.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. My Mercury in Sag loves a nonlinear process.
Right? Yeah, because like sometimes there's like, you know, sometimes there'll be 2 or 3 things happening. And sometimes I don't even necessarily have a good idea about how I feel about that until I've delineated each of them. And then I'm like, okay, and so all of them happening together looks like this other image. And so isn't that interesting, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I feel like there's something there that like, I don't know if it's going to point toward greater respectability or not, but that's a real thing here. So anyway, I don't know, I've begun to ramble at this point, and which is my tendency, but and I know that we all have important things that are going on after this. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to have this conversation and talk about the future of astrology in the world. I super appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, of course. My pleasure. Yeah, it's always good catching up with you.
For sure. So will you tell the people where to find you, what kind of things they can look for or be excited about?
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at just Kirah World, ORLD, KIRAH ORLD. I don't think I'm going to be posting on TikTok anytime soon, but I'm at Kirah.world at TikTok. At the Astrology still on Instagram. I have a podcast called Cosmic Guidance for All. It's a weekly, weekly forecast, and then also an advice podcast. So me and a guest will answer listener questions and look at birth charts and just get into some good juicy questions. And I have a cute little membership too called Jove's House, and I host a reading swap every month and like a community gathering every month, so you can meet other astrology nerds, and also get some just like exclusive content from me. And just keep an eye out. I'm trying to like make more social content. That's kind of what's on my mind lately. So keep an eye out for me on socials. And I do reading, so if you want a reading, just get on my mailing list. I open my books every month for the month ahead. So
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of the teaching and speaking and listening and questioning that you do in the world. It's a very valuable thing for us to have access to, and for us to learn from. So thank you so much for being here. And all the folks will certainly be on your mailing list directly. As always, I thank everyone in the audience for being here. Thank y'all for checking this whole situation out. If you want to go to ZamboniFunk.com, you can find all the cool stuff there. Thank you as always, and I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Bye.